Look around you. Everything you see, from skyscrapers to ancient temples, from devastating wars to the most sublime moments of spiritual ecstasy, may not have been built for its flowering, but for something much darker, the harvest of your soul. Have you ever felt that there is something strange, like an invisible presence always lurking, watching, but never revealing itself? We are not talking about science fiction, but the disturbing theory that the Earth is not a sanctuary of evolution, but a sophisticated farm of souls. This bold hypothesis was developed by Salvador Fruxito, a former Jesuit priest who abandoned one of the most traditional orders of Catholicism to denounce a system as old as hidden. According to him, our emotions, especially the most intense ones, such as fear, pain, blind faith and euphoria, are the true spiritual gold extracted by entities that inhabit the shadows of our reality. Fruxito spent decades within the church, serving as a missionary and theologian. However, what he saw in the real world, holy wars, doubtful miracles, contradictory visions, made him question deeply behind the scenes of organized faith. This is how he began to see what he called the human farm, a structure of energy extraction where we, humans, are the resources. These intelligences are not exactly angels or demons, but cunning predators that have domesticated our consciousness. Your enclosure is not made of wood, but of ideas, fears, dogmas, and traumas. Through religions, media, belief systems, and social cycles of pain and hope, they keep us oscillating emotionally, and the more we oscillate, the more energy we produce. Ancient texts, mythologies, and even modern phenomena such as divine apparitions or alien abductions point to the same pattern. Entities requiring devotion, sacrifice, suffering in exchange for a heavenly promise. But are these promises genuine, or are they mechanisms to keep the soul trapped in an eternal cycle of emotional harvest? He warned that these beings know human emotions better than we do. They don't need temples, they just need our intense emotions. And the most surprising, they feed not only on fear and pain, but also on faith, hope, and even love. As long as all this is lived in extremes, the manipulation is so deep that it is embedded in all religions, almost all present suffering as a door to enlightenment. This is not spiritual elevation, it is energy extraction. An invisible and millenary architecture, repeated in rituals, myths, and spiritual experiences, always keeping us emotionally committed to something we can't see but that feels everything we feel. Carl Jung spoke about the collective unconscious, a field where symbols and archetypes are manifested. What if some of these symbols are not ours, but introduced? What if religious archetypes are tools of manipulation implanted in our field of consciousness? Modern studies on morphic fields and consciousness indicate that there is a network connecting all beings. Now imagine what an invisible intelligence, with control over this network, could do to humanity. Would we be energetic cattle, guided by an emotional collar disguised as spirituality? Reincarnation is widely considered a blessing, an opportunity for evolution. But what if it's the opposite? What if it is the most effective mechanism of spiritual entrapment ever created? The wheel of life, not as a divine gift, but as a hypnotic cycle. When dying, the soul still bearing traumas, fears and guilt, is received by beings of light, promises of love, and comforting guides. But what if all this is just part of the trap? Reports of near-death experiences often describe an irresistible tunnel of light, but some witnesses report mistrust, a feeling of manipulation. The vulnerable soul, wrapped in raw emotion, is easily redirected to another life of pain, forced learning, and intense emotions, all, again, harvested. Even the feeling of spiritual mission can be used against us. Whenever an intense emotion moves us, be it love, faith, or indignation, it can be redirected to feed the system. The only thing these entities do not tolerate is absolute inner silence, lucid neutrality. In deep meditative states, studied by scientists like Richard Davidson, there is a break in the reactive emotional pattern. The mind enters a state of pure presence, and it is in this state that the soul becomes invisible to predators. It is this state that we need to cultivate. A place where we do not seek, do not fear, do not follow or fight. We are only without intermediaries. No worship, no invisible energy contracts. The exit is not in revolt, nor in adherence to a new doctrine. The exit is in the space between one thought and another. The moment we stop reacting, when, before death, we resist the impulse to follow the light. When we remember who we were before all this, before beliefs, history, guilt. It is there, in the silence without narrative, that lies the gap, the possibility of refusing the next cycle, not for hatred of the world, but for love of the essence, the conscious refusal to continue feeding the illusion. It is up to us to water it with discernment. Are you ready for the possibility that everything, from the faith that comforts you to the traumas that shake you, can be inserted in a gigantic architecture of extraction? Are you willing to give up comforting stories to embrace the silent truth? The earth may be a garden, but perhaps, at this moment, it is more for a plantation of souls. And the only way to escape this harvest is to stop blooming into the system and start blooming inward. The only light you should follow is that which comes from your inner silence. And then we come to the question that echoes like a thunder in the inner void. If everything you were taught about good, evil, heaven and hell was just another layer of prison, another frame to keep you searching, begging, praying for something outside of you, while your soul, tired, just expects that you look inside and remember, because it is in this void, apparently without purpose, that the gap resides, a gap between worlds, between the programmed and the eternal. Between the conditioned self and the true self. And the most disturbing is that the harvest system does not fear your faith. He fears your lucid neutrality. He doesn't want you to stop believing. He wants you to keep believing in anything as long as it keeps you reacting. Revolt, it absorbs. Blind love, it absorbs. Meditation seeking ascension, it also absorbs. But the silence, this disinterests you, because where there is no extreme vibration, there is no food. Researchers like Richard Davidson have already shown that trained monks can reach a point of presence so deep that their minds react neither to fear nor expectation. This state is not the end of the soul. It is its rebirth out of the game. In this silence, you seek nothing, you desire nothing, you just are, and this being pure, not corrupted, not indoctrinated, is what comes closest to its original state. The last choice is not about dying or living, nor about reincarnating or ascending. The last choice is to remember who you were before you forgot. When the soul is about to leave the body, it does not need a tunnel of light or a smiling angel. She needs a silent anchor within herself, something that says, no, I don't follow, I don't react, I remember. And when you refuse to follow any voice that comes from outside, you reconnect with what no entity can manipulate, his eternal presence. Liberation is not dramatic. It does not come with harps, nor with wings, nor with golden gates. It comes as a stillness that no one else can touch. In this state, there is no judgment. There is no fear. There is only you, free from the game, out of the herd. For the first time now, look inside, feel. Are you ready to give your soul back to yourself, or do you still need to believe that there is something greater, even if this greater is consuming you inside? The decision, as always, will not be made on altars or in retreats. It will happen when you finally stop reacting and start just existing. And that's it. You have come to the end of this journey. Now tell me, are you ready for the beginning of one that has no end?